I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Today, in a congressional hearing over the handling and a release of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi was pressed by lawmakers about transparency, accountability, and whether victims deserve more than bureaucratic silence. Instead of offering clarity or even basic acknowledgement of the gravity of the scandal, the hearing quickly devolved into partisan sparring, accusations of Trump derangement syndrome, and a refusal to address the deeper concerns surrounding the Epstein files. What I watched in this hearing wasn't leadership. It wasn't accountability. It wasn't even serious government. It was a staged distraction wrapped in fake outrage and served up like it was steak when it was actually microwaved nonsense. Pam Bondi sitting there refusing to apologize to Epstein victims while pretending this is all just noise is beyond insulting. It's grotesque. Let's be clear. We're talking about victims tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Children. Exploited human beings. And instead of humility, instead of seriousness, instead of even the bare minimum acknowledgement that this is one of the most horrific trafficking operations in modern history, we got performance. We got smirks. We got deflection. And then Bondi has the nerve to accuse members of Congress of having Trump derangement syndrome. That's not decorum. That's not professionalism. That's cable news comment section garbage. When you're under oath in a congressional hearing and your response to legitimate questions is to attack the questioner like you're auditioning for prime time, you're not defending justice. You're dodging it. This whole thing smells like a dog and pony show run by Jim Jordan and the usual suspects who specialize in one thing: noise. Manufactured chaos. If they can turn the hearing into a shouting match, if they can get headlines about partisan bickering, then guess what doesn't get attention? The actual documents, the actual questions asked, the actual names. And that's the point. They want you tired. They want you rolling your eyes. They want you thinking this is old news and it's time to move along. Move on from what exactly? From a global trafficking ring that intersected with powerful elites? From sealed records that still haven't been fully explained? From victims who still don't have full transparency? No, we don't move on from that. Bondi's decorum was appalling. Not because she was passionate. Passion's fine. I'm passionate right now. But there's a difference between controlled conviction and cheap attack lines. When you start accusing elected officials of psychological syndromes because they're asking questions, you're not defending truth. You're trying to delegitimize scrutiny. And that's a tactic. It's straight out of the playbook. If someone asks uncomfortable questions, label them crazy. If someone presses for documents, accuse them of obsession. If someone demands accountability, call it political theater. Meanwhile, the real theater is happening right in front of us. Let's talk about the victims again, because they're the only people who matter here, not the politicians, not the party operatives, not the talking heads, the victims. And when someone in a position of power refuses to apologize or even show a shred of gravity about what happened, that tells you something. It tells you this isn't about justice. It's about containment. Contain the damage, contain the story, contain the fallout. And here's what makes me furious. This isn't left versus right. This isn't red versus blue. This is powerful people closing ranks while regular Americans are told to sit down and shut up. The Republicans running this circus want to frame it as a partisan obsession. It's not. It's about transparency in one of the darkest scandals we've ever seen. You don't get to say it's time to move on when basic questions haven't been answered. You don't get to attack the questionnaires and pretend that's strength. It's not strength. It's insecurity wrapped in bravado. If there's nothing to hide, then release everything. If there's no protection happening, then stop acting defensive. If this is truly about justice, then act like it. With seriousness, with restraint, with goddamn respect for the victims. Instead, we got theatrics. We got finger pointing. We got snide remarks. We got a hearing that looked less like oversight and more like an audition tape for the next viral clip. It was a demolition derby. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the gaslighting. I'm sick of the distraction. And I'm especially sick of powerful officials treating a trafficking scandal like it's just another Tuesday in Washington. We don't move on because you're uncomfortable. We don't move on because it's politically inconvenient. We move forward when the truth is fully exposed and the victims are treated with dignity. Until then, don't tell us to calm down. We're not the problem. The secrecy is. And yet more madness. House Republicans revolt over GOP's attempt to hand Trump's Congress tariff authority. Stop and look what just happened in the House, because this is one of those moments that slices right through the political fog. Several Republicans just joined Democrats to block an effort that would have handed Donald Trump greater control over tariff authority. Republicans crossed their own party to stop more power from flowing to the president. That isn't routine Washington behavior. That's lawmakers looking at something and saying, this is where we draw the line. Tariffs aren't some obscure economic dial buried in a policy textbook. They can drive prices up fast. They can trigger retaliation from other countries. They can hit farmers, squeeze manufacturers, and land directly on American consumers. This is serious economic force, and Congress has historically guarded it for one very simple reason. The founders didn't want one person controlling that kind of pressure. So when members of the president's own party step in and refuse to hand it over, you're watching a rare flash of institutional backbone. Let's be honest about the climate in Washington right now. Crossing Trump isn't exactly a safe political move inside today's Republican Party. We all know this. The pressure is real. The backlash is real. Everyone in that building understands the risk. That's exactly why this revolt matters. It tells you at least some lawmakers are still willing to put the structure of government ahead of party gravity, ahead of loyalty, ahead of the safer political choice. And understand what they were actually defending. Not Democrats, not some partisan victory. They were defending the role of Congress itself. That should be normal. Lately, it hasn't felt normal. Congress is supposed to check a president. That tension isn't dysfunction. That tension is the safety mechanism built into the system. When one branch starts drifting toward giving power away, the balance tilts. Some Republicans clearly saw that tilt coming and stepped in before the guardrail bent any further. Now, don't misunderstand this moment. The fact that the attempt was even on the table tells you how strong the pull towards centralized power has become. But this vote shows something equally important. There are still people inside the system who recognize a red line when it appears. Because once authority like this moves to the executive branch, it rarely comes back cleanly. Precedence locks in. Future presidents inherit it. Boundaries shift. Strip the politics away, and the principle becomes obvious. You don't protect a democracy by making the presidency stronger at the expense of Congress. You protect it by guarding the lanes, even when it's politically inconvenient, especially when it's politically inconvenient. Yes, the headline is about tariffs, but the deeper story is that a group of Republicans looked at the direction this was going and decided the line between party loyalty and constitutional responsibility still matters. In this environment, that isn't a small thing. That's a reminder of what Congress is supposed to be, an independent branch of government, not an extension of whoever happens to hold the Oval Office. I want to close with something that deserves real attention, because every once in a while the system reminds you that it still has a backbone. A grand jury rules on sedition charges against Democratic senators. A grand jury has refused to indict Democratic Senators Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin after the president publicly pushed for sedition charges over a video urging members of the military and intelligence community to refuse unlawful or illegal orders and follow the law. The video circulated widely, drew political backlash, mostly from the Republicans, and was held up as proof by the president that their rhetoric crossed into dangerous territory. Trump even said punishable by death. Think about that for a second. A president calls for prosecution, the outrage machine starts humming, the pressure builds, and then the legal system steps in, looks at the evidence in front of the grand jury and says, no. Flat out, no. And that word matters, because sedition isn't a casual accusation. It's one of the most serious charges this government can bring. Historically, it's been reserved for conduct that truly threatens the country. Like January 6th. Trying to stretch that standard into the arena of political speech should make every American very uncomfortable, no matter where you sit politically. Here's what makes this moment important. A grand jury isn't television. It isn't talk radio. It isn't social media. It's a room full of citizens whose job is painfully simple. Examine the facts, decide whether a crime exists. They examined them. The grand jury refused to go along. That's what independence looks like. Because if we're being honest about the political climate right now, far too many people in power have been operating with what can only be described as rose-colored glasses when it comes to Donald Trump. The instinct has been to align, to protect, to nod along, to treat every demand as if it carries the force of inevitability. That's how institutions start bending. Slowly, quietly, decision by decision, as people convince themselves that going along is safer than standing firm. But a grand jury doesn't serve a president. It serves the law. Inside that room, loyalty didn't get a vote. Pressure didn't get a vote. Politics didn't get a vote. Evidence did. And when the evidence was measured against a charge as explosive as sedition against Kelly and Slotkin, the answer was no. What you're seeing here is something the country should never take for granted. Individuals inside the system willing to take off their blinders and do the job exactly as it's supposed to be done. No theatrics, no intimidation, no bending to power, just the law. Now strip the names away for a moment, focus on the principle, because this cuts bigger than any one president or any two senators. If the government can start labeling political disagreement as sedition, you're no longer debating policy. You're stepping onto very dangerous ground where criminal law gets used as a political weapon. That isn't a road this country wants to go down. The founders built a system full of friction for a reason. Power was never supposed to move unchecked. Accusations were never supposed to become convictions just because someone powerful like Trump demanded them. This grand jury just reinforced that boundary. And let's say the quiet part plainly. It's a relief to see someone somewhere in the machinery of government not reflexively falling into the posture of pleasing Donald Trump. Not scrambling to validate the outrage of the moment. Not treating a presidential demand like it's an order that must be carried out. Instead, they did something far more important. They applied the law without fear. Moments like this are reminders that the guardrails still exist, but they only hold if people inside the system are willing to stand upright and use them. Today, that's exactly what happened. No rose-colored glasses, no automatic deference, no kiss the ring politics. Just a decision rooted in evidence. That's how the system is supposed to work. And when it does, it deserves to be recognized. Our country is on a fast track, either exploding into billions of pieces and democracy completely gone, or finally, the threads are being pulled apart on this massive corruption inside Donald Trump's circus of dictatorship. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you, the listener, as well, are hoping, that this is the real start of the backbone and the balls of the Democrats. The Democrats who finally stand up and go on the attack legally. We're at a precipice, Wolfpack, and they can't lift their foot off the gas pedal. They need to hammer the Trump administration hard, because what the Trump administration and its minions are doing is trying to deflect, distract, and belittle the Democratic side. And we better not put up with that crap. We better verbally fight back against this garbage. We need to take a stand, not let them get away with this. We can't let them out-talk us, outthink us, or outmaneuver us. And if we stop for 1 second, even 1 microsecond, we will have let go of the reins and handed it over to the worst, lowest form of subculture this country has ever come across. Pure bigots, pure manipulators, pure destructors of truth and everything that's right with our country. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. We will not yield. We should not yield. Everyone needs to stand up and voice their outrage at this pile of garbage that's sitting in the White House and all the surrounding committees propping up Donald Trump. Now, I released something a couple of days ago. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may have missed it, but a lot of you, the listeners, have ignored it. And I'm very frustrated, I'll be honest. It's called Wolf, W-O-L-F. Yes, my last name. We oppose lawless fascism. It's an organization, people. It's not the wolf pack you belong to. It's not a cute, funny little thing about my name. It is an actual organization. I'm asking everyone who's listening to wake up. If you claim you despise this administration, if you claim you're sick and tired of what's happening to our country, if you're against Donald Delusional, then why aren't you a part of this? It's free. It's easy to become part of this. It's fast. Type in your browser joinwolf.org. You will learn more about this organization. But I urge you, the listener, don't just say you're for democracy. Don't just write a Substack or articles on Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram. Don't just post on Democratic Facebook groups or on your own Facebook group your outrage. Don't just create memes or posters and plaster them everywhere on the internet. JoinWolf.org. Giving me a thumbs up when I post this or like for what I've created is nice, but it doesn't really do anything. And you don't really take a stand on anything by sending me an emoji or a compliment to me. Great job, Jeff. Thumbs up. JoinWolf.org. Let's see how many of you listening put your money where your mouth is and stand up for this country. Through everything that my family and I are going through right now financially, which is killing us emotionally and creating massive stress and fear for us, I'm not stopping. I'm not putting up with this shit from Donald Trump and his lunatic minions. And neither should you. It's time to recapture the greatness of what America should be. Join me. JoinWolf.org. JoinWolf. JoinWolf.org. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Wolfpack listeners, at a time when truth is getting buried under lies and too many of the wrong voices are telling you what to think, be skeptical, question everything. Don't lose hope, and most of all, stay alert.